Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. April 13th, 2018.
The Kuhner Report is powered by Kelly Financial Services, cleaning up your financial bull. Get the peace of mind that you deserve at Kelly Financial Services.
James Comey dumps all over President Trump, and the question now is, will it succeed in bringing down Trump's numbers? Okay, my friends, the war is on between Comey and the president. It's now official. We're going to be talking about that. Also, in the next hour at 1:05, you do not want to miss it. I'm going to have a debate on the Kuhner Report. I have a guest that's going to be joining us that says Trump's best interests regarding Robert Mueller is to do nothing. And you're not going to believe who that guest is. At 2:05, a deadly shooting of a police officer in Yarmouth. His canine officer dog shot as well. And you're not going to believe the career criminal who gunned down that police officer. Should liberal judges be held accountable for the out-of-control behavior of career criminals? We're going to have all of that. But first, my friends, it's now official. Comey declares war on President Trump. So, as I speak to you now, James Comey, the dirtiest cop in America, is now in the midst of a huge tour promoting his upcoming book, which is going to be published on Tuesday, No Higher Loyalty. And in that book, and in now multiple media interviews that he's giving, the first one being to George Stephanopoulos, James Comey gives it to President Trump with both barrels. And what I find interesting, my friends, is that the first major interview he gives is to a Hillary Clinton hack. A Clinton hack, Stephanopoulos, who actually worked for the Clintons as their press secretary during the 1990s. And you can now see that this is clearly coordinated. So, as Comey now goes on the offensive, here is exactly what he says in his book. He now has come out and said at least the several following allegations. Number one, he compares President Trump, in his words, to a mob boss, what he calls Sammy the Bull Gravano. Sammy the Bull Gravano was a top henchman for the Gambino crime family before he became an informant and flipped on John Gotti and the five families of New York. And according to Comey, he says that Trump met with him on multiple occasions and that he wanted a loyalty test from James Comey when he was FBI director, similar, say, to a mob boss like Sammy the Bull. That everything, according to Comey, is about assent, is about taking orders, is about being loyal, is about putting the interests of the Trump organization and the Trump machine over that of the country, morality, and truth. As Comey put it, he's like a modern-day mob boss. Furthermore, James Comey says that President Trump was obsessed with the Christopher Steele dossier, in particular the allegations that there was a tape that the FSB, that the Russian Secret Service, the intelligence service, had of the president in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Moscow, in which, according to this, the dossier, the Steele dossier, Russian prostitutes were peeing, having golden showers, urinating all over the president, all over the bed in 2013. And according to Comey, Trump was obsessed with the tape and that he wanted Comey to find out who was behind it and to go and disprove the tape was real. because according to Comey, the president felt there was maybe a quote-unquote 1% chance that Melania Trump would believe the accusations. And so, according to Comey, he was playing the sympathy card. He was trying to play, according to Comey, my poor wife, my beautiful wife, may think these allegations are true. This is very hurtful to her. Can you please go and disprove them? And as Comey says in the book, and as he tells Stephanopoulos, what kind of a man, what kind of a spouse, and what kind of a marriage do they have that the wife would think there's even a 1% chance that her husband was with Russian prostitutes peeing all over him and all over the bed? As Comey put it, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but there's one thing I can tell you about my marriage. My wife would never give that any credence or validity. So not only is he going after Trump, not only is he claiming that there is a real possibility that the Golden Showers incident in Moscow is true and accurate. When Steffi asked him, is it true? He goes, it hasn't been verified. It's unverifiable. It's possible. In other words, wink, wink. If the president can sleep with porn stars, the president can be getting golden showers and being peed on by Russian prostitutes. There are also some very odd aspects to the book. One of them is Comey's obsession with Trump's looks. He goes on about how when he met Trump, he was actually shorter in person than what he thought he would be after seeing him on television. Comey is 6'8". Trump is 6'3". Comey also goes on to describe Trump's looks, saying that his hair is perfectly coiffed. It's bright blonde. It looks like he spends hours in the morning getting ready. He talks about half-white moons under his eyes, as if he uses small or narrow goggles to tan. He then, in a very bizarre twist, says that he noticed Trump's hands, and that when he looked at Trump's hands, they were smaller than his, but that they were not unusually small. And that, to me, was clearly a shot at the president, saying, obviously, the hands are a sign of his you-know-what, and mine is bigger than his. This is sickening. This is cheap gossip and innuendo. This is nothing more than a vicious smear and slander campaign by a clearly bitter man who so loathes the president that now he's essentially turning his book into another version of the National Enquirer. This is now all about sex. It's all about Russian prostitutes. It's all about golden showers. And it's all about sticking it to the president and hurting Melania Trump in the process. Listen now to James Comey being interviewed by Stephanopoulos. Roll it, Brittany.
President-elect Trump's first question was to confirm that it had no impact on the election. And then the conversation, to my surprise, moved into a PR conversation about how the Trump team would position this and what they could say about this. They actually started talking about drafting a press release with us still sitting there. And the reason that was so striking to me is that that's just not done. That the intelligence community does intelligence, the White House does PR and spin.
You also said you were struck by what they didn't ask.
Very much. No one, to my recollection, asked, so what's coming next from the Russians? How might we stop it? What's the future look like? It was all, what can we say about what they did and how it affects the election that we just had?
So there he's trying to intimate that Trump is in bed with Putin, and that Trump is trying to cover up for the Russians, and that Trump doesn't want to really stop Russia's meddling in our election, but wink, wink, he's really in bed with the Kremlin. He doesn't state it, he insinuates it. because that's the kind of sleazeball James Comey is. But it gets better. Roll it, Brittany.
I'm about to meet with a person who doesn't know me. He's just been elected President of the United States. By all accounts, and from my watching him during the campaign, could be volatile. And I'm about to talk to him about allegations that he was involved with prostitutes in Moscow and that the Russians taped it and have leverage over him.
Was there any choice there? Why, if this was salacious, and this particular part of the dossier unverified, still unverified, by the way?
Yes. So far as when I got fired, it was unverified.
Did you tell him that the Steele dossier had been financed by his political opponents?
No. I don't even think I used the term Steele dossier. I just talked about additional material.
But did he have a right to know that?
That had been financed by his political opponents? I don't know the answer to that. It wasn't necessary for my goal, which was to alert him that we had this information.
How graphic did you get?
I think as graphic as I needed to be. I started to tell him about the allegation was that he had been involved with prostitutes in a hotel in Moscow in 2013 during a visit for the Miss Universe pageant, and that the Russians had filmed the episode. And he interrupted very defensively and started talking about it. You know, do I look like a guy who needs hookers? And I assumed he was asking that rhetorically. I didn't answer that, and then I just moved on and explained, sir, I'm not saying that we credit this. I'm not saying we believe it. We just thought it very important that you know.
Did you tell him you thought it wasn't true, or you didn't know if it was true or not?
I never said I don't believe it, because I couldn't say one way or another.
How weird was that briefing?
Really weird. It was almost an out-of-body experience for me. I was floating above myself, looking down, saying, you're sitting here briefing the incoming president of the United States about prostitutes in Moscow.
Okay, so, and then Comey drops the hammer. Roll it, Brittany.
Says he may want me to investigate it to prove that it didn't happen. And then he says something that distracted me, because he said, you know, if there's even a 1% chance my wife thinks that's true, that's terrible. And I remember thinking, how could your wife think there's a 1% chance you were with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow? I'm a flawed human being, but there's literally zero chance that my wife would think that was true. So what kind of marriage to what kind of man does your wife think there's only a 99% chance you didn't do that? And I said to him, sir, when he started talking about it, I may order you to investigate that. I said, sir, that's up to you, but you'd want to be careful about that, because it might create a narrative that we're investigating you personally. And second, it's very difficult to prove something didn't happen.
Did you believe his denial?
Honestly, never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but I don't know whether the current president of the United States was with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow in 2013. It's possible, but I don't know.
Incredible. I mean, to me, that's just, I mean, honestly, it's possible when we know the Steele dossier is garbage. I mean, with all due respect, and I have to say this, he's urinating on the President of the United States. What he and Stephanopoulos did was their version of a political golden shower, forgive me, I have to say it, on the President of the United States. This is libel. This is slander. This, to me, is beyond outrageous. And Trump responded in a tweet this morning. He issued 2 tweets. He called Comey an untrustworthy slimeball who should be prosecuted because he lied under oath and leaked classified information to the media. By the way, on the second score, the president is 1,000% correct. Comey committed perjury under oath. He lied to Congress. He leaked, by his own admission, classified information to his friend in order to trigger the special counsel of his good buddy, Robert Mueller. So he should be in handcuffs right now. But let that go for a second. He's not just a slimeball. Mr. President, with all due respect, I think on this one, you're putting it a little bit too mildly. He's an absolute scumbag. And so let me tell all of you, I've got breaking news. This is coming in right now. I have found out that the Trump campaign has an opposition research document that they now have compiled using Russian intelligence sources, from the FSB, and according to them, James Comey was in a Moscow hotel, and James Comey was seeing Russian prostitutes, and James Comey was being urinated upon by these prostitutes, and he loved it. I have breaking news as well right now. So let me ask Comey, do you like that? Is that what you want American politics now to become? This guy is the freaking director of the FBI? Which to me begs several obvious points. Number one, if Trump is Sammy the Bull Gravano, how come everybody in the White House is leaking like a spigot? How come you've got people coming and going? It's like musical chairs at the White House. If he runs his office and his presidency like a mob boss with an iron fist. How come he surrounds himself with people that he actually disagrees with? That's point number one. Point number two, and the mother of all points. I want you to think about this. President Trump has armed Ukraine with lethal defensive weapons. Putin has been screaming bloody murder. He has now unleashed American oil and energy production, killing the Russian energy market, which is Putin's lifeline. And now, as I speak to you right now, we are on the verge of the greatest possible nuclear confrontation between us and Russia since the Cuban Missile Crisis in Syria. We are potentially on the verge of World War III. You think if Vladimir Putin had a secret tape of President Trump being urinated on, peed upon by Russian prostitutes, you don't think he wouldn't have released it by now? Because you want to end Syria? You want to end Trump's backing of Ukraine? You want to end the sanctions that he's imposed on Putin's inner circle, all of his top oligarchs? You want to destroy Donald Trump? All you have to do is release that tape. Trump's presidency is finished. You know why Putin hasn't released that tape? Because it doesn't exist. It's bull crap. I really want to say something else. It's complete BS. And James Comey knows it. Christopher Steele lied. The FBI lied, and now James Comey is one of the biggest liars and dirtiest cops in American history. Forget the book tour. He belongs in jail. And my question now to you is this. Will Comey's PR campaign against the president, his book tour enabled by the mainstream media, with their focus on sex, Russian prostitutes, and golden showers, will it work to bring down the president? 617-266-6868. Trump versus Comey. Who's winning? Who's losing?
He says he may want me to investigate it to prove that it didn't happen. And then he says something that distracted me, because he said, if there's even a 1% chance my wife thinks that's true, that's terrible. And I remember thinking, how could your wife think there's a 1% chance you were with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow?
1228 here on the great WRKO. Okay. Comey now building off of the Stormy Daniels controversy. You can see how all of this is being coordinated. Now is claiming that he actually believes or thinks there's a real possibility that Trump, in fact, was engaged in golden showers with Russian prostitutes at a hotel in Moscow. It's one of the salacious allegations, really smears, libels, leveled at this president in a book by a liar, a perjurer, and clearly the worst FBI director this country ever had, who is obviously very bitter that President Trump fired him. And my question to you is this. Will the public believe him? Do you believe him? 617-266-6868. Okay. Evan Heidenrich has the absolute latest. I'll be taking your calls. The Trump administration is now responding to these salacious claims, the bombshell claims, emerging from the new book by James Comey. Evan Heidenrich is in the RKO newsroom. He has all of those details. Take it away, Evan.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
1237 here on the great WRKO. Okay, I just want to thank Chef Billy Manzo and his wonderful wife, Christine, for an incredible pizza drop. Go to Federal Hill Pizza in Providence for literally the best pizza in all of New England. They also have a wonderful charity, which I'm a big supporter of helping to feed starving children. There is a big comedy event that's going to be held at Federal Hill Pizza in Providence. You can get tickets. It's going to be Saturday, April 21st. You can get more details on chefsfeedingkids.org. Or you can call 401-331-3310, 401-331-3310. You can also go to TicketLeap, L-E-A-P, ticketleap.com. Okay, Comey goes after President Trump. Trump calls him an untrustworthy slimeball, a liar, and a perjurer. My question to you is this. Who do you believe in this war? And who do you think is winning? And who do you think is losing? Lou in Rhode Island. You're up next. Go ahead, Lou.
Hey, how you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. How are you, Lou?
Comey sounds like a desperate man. I mean, just hearing his voice just sounds like a desperate man. But here's a couple points that I think need to be brought in. Number one, he did not inform the president that this came from opposition research. And what I did was I pulled up the Nunez memo and looked at it. It was paid for, we all know who it was paid for by, the Clinton campaign, Fusion, and the DNC. Don't you think, now this is an important thing, he didn't inform the president that it was a DNC operation to get this dossier, and he also did not inform the FISA court that this was opposition research as well. This is a strange pattern on behalf of Mr. Comey. And the thing that's dangerous about this, and I heard this from somebody else this morning, it's not an original thought, but I think it's a very good thought, that President Trump was concerned because he thought that this dossier had come from Putin and the Russians. He had no idea that it was coming from Clinton campaign or opposition research, and this is the basis of his thinking about foreign policy dealing with Putin and the Russians, and could have put us in a lot of grave danger if he thought that the Russians were doing stuff like this in our country. Comey put our country in danger by not informing us, by informing the president, that this was opposition research coming from the Clinton campaign. And it's very important to put it all in context, because what Comey was doing was putting the United States in danger. He didn't inform the FISA court, and he's shown to be an all-round liar and a fabricator of information. Now he's trying to push this thing that's already been denounced across the whole United States and everywhere else, this dossier, as truth now. They're trying to revive it because he and the Democrats are very desperate. They have nothing else.
Lou, I agree with you. 1,000%. Thank you for that call. Look, I think you pretty much nailed it. Look, there's so many holes in Comey. They're so big you can drive a Mack truck through. Okay? Number one, on September 28th, 2017, Comey testified under oath, and he was asked specifically, when did you decide that you were not going to charge Hillary Clinton? And he expressly said, after we had interviewed her. And he kept saying it. We only made a decision after she was interviewed. That's a lie. He perjured himself under oath because he interviewed her in July, but he wrote his exoneration letter, it's a matter of public record now, in May. So months before he ever interviewed anybody, Hillary, 17 key witnesses, he already said, we're going to exonerate her. We're not charging her with anything. This thing is done. So he lied under oath. That's a crime. Then by his own admission, he openly said, the notes that I took with the president, I deliberately leaked to a friend who then leaked it to the media. That's classified information because I wanted to get a special counsel appointed, my good buddy, as he called him, Robert Mueller. So, leaking classified information is a crime. Now, This was the FBI director. All of these crimes were committed as he was the director of the FBI. He should be in jail. That to me is the obvious point. Secondly, we now know he was lying to the FISA court, pushing for Trump to be spied and surveilled on by pushing the bogus Christopher Steele dossier. So he should be tried on that score. So when you look at James Comey, again and again and again, his behavior was so egregious, so outrageous, so criminal and illegal, he has no moral or legal authority to stand on. And then to me, there's the obvious point. Okay, there's the obvious point. If you honestly thought that the president of the United States several years before could be blackmailed by the Russians because they had this alleged secret tape of prostitutes, peeing all over him, you should have resigned. You should have resigned. Furthermore, if you thought he was like a mob boss, according to what he said, well, when I met him, he reminded me of Sammy the Bull Garvano. So if you think he's Sammy the Bull, resign. If he's a mobster, if he's in bed with Putin, if Putin has blackmail information on him, you as the FBI director should have demanded a resignation. Instead, he wanted to keep his job. All he wanted was to stay on as FBI director. So how come nobody's asking him these obvious questions? And then notice Stephanopoulos. Well, that was a political opposition research document. No, mention the name of the opponent. It was a Hillary Clinton opposition research document that was the Christopher Steele dossier. So we're going to take the words of Hillary Clinton operatives who paid for that dossier and believe now all of a sudden, oh yeah, the Russian prostitutes, they were peeing all over the guy. I mean, this is outrageous, but more than that, it's libelous. This is slanderous. And so I'm getting a lot of blowback on the text machine saying, Jeff, why are you discussing this? I'll tell you why I'm discussing it. It's not that I want the guy to sell books. It's that this is going to go big on Sunday. He's going to have a huge speaking tour. The media now, all of a sudden, are calling him St. James Comey. They're putting him up on a pedestal because their goal now is to destroy President Trump. In fact, John Brennan, the ex-CIA chief, just came out and said, your presidency is collapsing around you. We've got Stormy Daniels, we've got Robert Mueller, we've got Mickey Cohen, we've got all these documents, and now we've coordinated it with Comey. Now we've had the American people thinking that the ex-FBI director actually thinks that maybe Trump was having sex with Russian prostitutes who were urinating all over the guy. This is liberal political pornography. This is so unprecedented and so vile, it really boggles the mind. And nobody's asking Comey any tough questions because now their mission is destroy the president, especially with the midterms around the corner. Larry in Belmont, you're up next. Go ahead, Larry.
Jeff, I am so excited for Comey's book release. Now, where do I find this? Under fiction or with the other sleazy rags by the cash registers? Seriously. Now, how
well, maybe in the pornography department, Larry.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I didn't even think of that until you just mentioned that. But where I'm lost is how come there isn't a standard held to these book publishers on truth and sources and stuff like that? I mean, I've read books from like certain people we know, Ann Coulter, different things like that. And the last 100 pages is nothing but source material. Everything can be verified. But he gets to put out this salacious book that's full of crap and has already been shown to be false. And they eat it up like it's, the Holy Bible. Well, the liberals do. I don't want to say anybody else.
Well, no, Larry, look, you've nailed it. That's the $64,000 question. And thank you for that call. How is it now that you have a guy that's peddling utter garbage? I mean, look, he's going on about Trump's hands. Like, what a fruitcake. No, really, what a weirdo. And, of course, you know what the insinuation is, right? The size of his hands, meaning the size of his, his private parts. But you know what? My hands, he writes this, my hands are bigger than his hands. Meaning, like, he's calling into question Trump's manhood. My manhood is bigger than his manhood. I'm like, and you were the FBI director? Are you kidding me? Like, this is the garbage in your book? And then you're going on about comparing the president to a mob boss? When I want you to think about this, okay? Just objectively. If Trump was a mob boss, how the hell there are so many leaks every day? They're leaking like there's no tomorrow. What loyalty? Nobody's loyal to the guy. I mean, that's just a fact. And then you've got musical chairs. People are coming, people are going, people are leaving, people are resigning. I mean, so what are you talking about running the White House with an iron fist? In fact, it's the exact opposite. When he was describing a mob boss, someone who demands utter loyalty, somebody whose presidency is above truth, above morality, where nobody's able to leak against him, everybody has to serve him. I'm like, he's describing his tenure under Barack Hussein Obama. They never leaked under Obama. Everything was subordinated to Obama. Everything was the dear leader. Everything was loyalty to the dear leader. In fact, why was Comey colluding with Obama in the Hillary Clinton campaign to derail Trump during the election and spy on him illegally? Because he was following Obama's orders. So it's a classic case of projection. He's trying to paint a picture of Trump, which in fact is the reality of Barack Hussein Obama. And then notice the sick obsession with sex. And notice how he has to bring in Melania. What kind of marriage do they have? I mean, it's almost basically saying, hey, my marriage is a hell of a lot better than their marriage. I mean, how can she put up with this? I mean, a guy with porn stars and now prostitutes? And she may even believe it? Like, what kind of sick marriage do they have? You, who allowed a special prosecutor to run wild under the Bush administration. You, who all you've done is commit crime after crime after crime. And now, all of a sudden, you want to bring down the president by going after his wife? It's sickening. It really is, on every level. I almost feel dirty talking about it. 617-266-6868. Let me ask you, the book tour has now started. The media is already fating and celebrating Comey. They're praising the book. He has now made wild, salacious, outrageous accusations against the president. Have you lost even more confidence in the FBI? And who do you think the public will believe? Comey or Trump? Will the public believe Comey's lies and slanders? And what should the president do? 617-266-6868. More with your calls next.
Well, I was appalled by what Director Comey did.
Comey acted in an outrageous way.
What he did was unprecedented and outrageous, damaged the institution of law enforcement in this country.
All I can tell you is the FBI director has no credibility. That's it.
That, of course, is a montage of leading Democrats, from Chuck Schumer to Nancy Pelosi to Gerald Nadler to Adam Schiff to Howard Dean to Bernie Sanders to Maxine Waters, all of them saying after Comey's decision to look into again the email scandal, to reinvestigate the email scandal about a week or 10 days before the election, then all of the Democrats said Comey has no character, Comey has no integrity, and Comey should be fired. Now that Trump fired Comey, now they're claiming he's a hero. So look at 1984. He's a scumbag, and now he's St. James Comey. That's the Democrats, that's the media, that's the left for you. Arthur in Chestnut Hill, you're up next. Go ahead, Arthur.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I got a few things for you, Jeff, if you got an extra few seconds.
Go ahead, shoot.
First of all, this book is about the most idiotic book that's ever been out there about a self-serving jerk who's insulting. All it is a book of insults. So I don't know how anybody can even take it seriously to begin with. Second of all, you remember when the president is about to pardon Scooter Libby after the last witch hunt of a Republican by Patrick Fitzgerald. You know who appointed Patrick Fitzgerald to go after the disclosure of Valerie Plame?
James Comey.
James Comey appointed a friend of his, and he knew full well within a day or two that it was not Scooter Libby that person put Valerie Plame's name out there, and Comey fed Judith Miller, a reporter, a song and dance about Valerie Plame. She wrote an article about it, and then wouldn't give her source out, who was James Comey. Okay, and as a result, they wound up getting a Scooter Libby. In the end, she finds out that it was bogus, and she turns around and goes before a magistrate who and recants her testimony, and as a result, Scooter Libby got his law license back, and it's that lawyer that's with Joe DeGeneva, that's Scooter Libby's lawyer, mentioned it to Donald Trump, which is why he's going to pardon him, and to the point that another reason why I think special prosecutors don't work unless it's specific. And the other thing I want to point out is a real quick timeline. Okay, on March 2nd, 2017, Rosenstein gets Jeff Sessions to recuse himself. 7 days later, he sends a letter to the president telling him why he needs to fire James Comey. And then the president fires James Comey.
Bingo. I mean, Arthur, I'm up against it, but they set him up the whole time to appoint Mueller. Should Mueller be fired?
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 100.7 WZLX HD2 Boston, an iHeart radio station.